Hi, I'm Don Dodge, and this is Google Root Access. Today, my guest is Alex Moore, founder of Baydin. Alex was on our last show, and it was so interesting that we invited him back again for another show. Today, we're going to talk about raising money from friends and family, angels, venture capital, business models, and that sort of thing, how you get going. So, Alex, did you raise money from friends and family? Did you take the traditional route, friends and family, angels, VCs?
My friends and family are all pretty broke. So I actually Baydin actually went straight from self-funding to angel funding.
Interesting. So how did you make the pitch to angels? How did you find the angels that would be interested?
For us, the thing that made the pitch work the best was having traction numbers. So when we actually, when we went to raise our round, we'd already launched our product, Boomerang. We already had, I think, about 70,000 users using it, and we already had enough usage, enough engaged users that we figured we'd be able to eventually make money from it.
So you bootstrapped building the initial product, getting it launched, and getting to 70,000 users before you raised money?
Right.
How long did that take you, and how much did it cost?
Well, if you don't count the stuff we were working on before we pivoted, it was about 6 months of work to get the product out there and launched and start getting some users for it. From a cost standpoint, it was mostly just keeping myself and the rest of the team fed and housed and sheltered and all those things. So basically whatever it takes to keep people alive for 6 months.
So how did you do your initial user acquisition and get to 70,000 users? That's a lot of users.
Well, we kind of caught lightning in a bottle when we launched. We got one article that then turned into several other articles, and it was mostly press-driven at that point. So just getting that initial press and converting it. And then we also did a really good, kind of a predecessor to the launch sites that people have where you can tweet to get ahead in the line. So we did that also much more manually and much more ad hoc. So you could either sign up to enter your email address to be notified when we were ready, or you could tweet and move to the front of the line.
So you encouraged potential users to tweet about Baydin, and then that would get them up. So you sort of gamified the acquisition process?
Yeah, a little bit. And we found that if we said you can use it in 24 hours if you tweet, or it might be a week or so before we can get the server capacity up. In fairness, we needed to scale the servers. So we really couldn't let everybody in all at once. But gamifying it definitely helped us.
So Facebook did something similar where you had to be from a certain school. Like you had to have a Harvard EDU address or a Stanford EDU address to get into Facebook. And they created these waiting lists. And that waiting list and exclusivity sort of encourage more people to get going. Is that sort of what you did by saying, tweet about it and maybe you can get in?
Yeah, I think it helped. I remember back at MIT when Facebook launched, we were, I think, the third school to get it. The thing that made it work so well is they kept their servers alive. Everybody was on Friendster, everybody was on MySpace, everybody was on 6 of these things, but the only one that kept their servers up reliably was Facebook. And so I think it's one of those things where server capacity and exclusivity worked hand in hand to make things work well for them.
So let's get back to how you made the decision to raise money and where you went to get it. How did you decide to go to angels, and how did you get introduced to those angels?
We went with angels because I was running out of money, and like I said, friends and family weren't really a big option. We got introduced to the angels largely, well, AngelList helped. It was way back in the early days for AngelList, but that was sort of how we sourced them. We went to AngelList, we looked at them, and we found out who we wanted to be, who we wanted to meet. And then it tended to be long intro chains for us that made a big difference. So we'd meet one person, they'd say, well, this isn't right for me, but I know who it is right for, and then we'd get an intro to them, and then eventually we'd end up with the people who ended up investing.
Interesting. Did you approach VCs?
We did. At the time, we thought we were a little early for it. We didn't necessarily know whether we had, the kind of thing where it needed to be $1 billion company or bust. We weren't sure what the right shape of our company was going to be. So we decided to go with angels instead.
So you raised a little bit of angel money that got you funding for what, 6 months or a year?
About 18 months.
18 months. And at what point did you decide, oh, we need to have a revenue model and we need to be generating cash rather than spend all that 18 months just focused on building features and innovation? When did you make that choice?
It was about 6 months after we raised our angel round. And we looked at our numbers and our growth, and we saw basically polynomial growth, like I talked about last show. We saw that it wasn't the kind of inherently viral product where users mattered more than money. And so we figured, well, let's see if we can get a revenue model in place, and if anything, that would probably help us if we need to raise money later. And fortunately, we were lucky enough to not need to. We reached profitability when we turned on the revenue model.
So many startup entrepreneurs, when they're faced with this problem, they say the answer is develop more features. If we have more features, if we have more innovation, we'll attract more users, and that will eventually lead to growth and profit. Others, like yourself, say, no, we need to focus on a revenue model and start generating at least a little cash so that we extend our runway. So how did you go through that decision process?
Well, for us, it was kind of, what really triggered it for us is we looked at our product and we said, well, if this isn't going to make any money for us, this probably isn't, it's not viral. It's the kind of thing where we have to be, we know we're adding a lot of value. Can we turn it into money? And we really wanted to answer that question for ourselves before we, poured another 12 months of development effort into it. I think, had it not worked out, we would have had to make a decision between, do we add more features to make it work, or do we need to pivot again? But it worked out.
So how about today? You've raised your angel money, you have a revenue model, you have users, you're cash flow break even or profitable. So what's next? Do you decide to go for venture capital and shoot for the moon, or are you going for the steady growth and cash flow?
The timing for us to raise venture capital would be when it could massively accelerate the business. So right now we're doing very nice growth on our own, and we haven't found a channel that looks like we need venture capital money to saturate it. Every channel we've found, it seems like we can make work with our current budget. So when we find an opportunity to acquire customers that needs a bunch of VC money, that's when we want to start looking at that.
So what about your angel investors? They put their money in how long ago?
About 2 years ago.
So they're 2 years in. Investors expect a return at some point. So how do you deal with your investors? Do you tell them, hey, we're going to be cash flow positive and we'll distribute cash, or we're going to have an exit at some point? Or how do you deal with your angel investors now?
It's not too hard to do when you're making money and growing nicely. They've been very supportive. They're very, the investors we have are very, very hands-on guys who are awesome to work with, and they've been generally supportive of what we've been doing because the growth is there, and we continue to invest in new innovations and things like that. So it hasn't really been a challenge for us. It's just been, every month we send out updates and they say, hey, looks good, keep doing it.
How about employees? Have you had to add employees, and if so, how do you attract them and tell them the stock option story?
Definitely. We've grown the team from 3 up to 8 now, and for us, the thing that makes Baydin a great place to work is the environment and is what we're working on. One of the nice things about working in email is that you're your own customer also. So part of what makes it helps us attract employees is that we can recruit from our customers also. So people who think, hey, this is really cool stuff, maybe I should work on this.
Great story. Well, thank you. I would like to invite you to try out Google Cloud. We have a special offer for Google Root Access users. You have a $2,000 credit if you use Cloud to develop your application. The information for how to get this credit will appear on your screen. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time.